Welcome to the Splitting Hairs podcast. It's a new iteration of the pod. It's a new era in 2023 for the Jackrabbits, and it's a new era for us as well. So this year, you'll be getting a full dose of Stacker and Sheehan here for the Splitting Hairs podcast. Shout out to two new title sponsors we've got. One is our legacy sponsor, Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro out of Brookings, South Dakota. You guys know the story and the drill with them. Locally sourced farm-to-table food, great roasted coffee locally in Brookings. If you need a pick-me-up, they got great espresso. If you like iced beverages, they've got that as well. They've got you covered across the board. Don't forget their e-commerce ordering platform they've got for you. They do a great job with that. Shipment's pretty easy. We're excited to have them back on board. And we have a new sponsor. Title sponsor of the pod is True North Retirement. They help folks with estate planning and preparing their will to get their assets in order in the event their family or the primary entity passes on their assets, to make sure those are in line and not gobbled up by the state and federal government. So that's never a good thing. So shout out to them. Really appreciate that. Working on some other sponsors as well. Really excited to hopefully have them on board. Local companies out of Brookings that want to be a part of the movement we're creating here in the new era for the Splitting Hairs podcast. Just some quick housekeeping. Didn't want to hold Matt and the Jackrabbit Illustrated team hostage with my chaotic schedule for work. It was a little bit difficult here being down in Texas, trying to coordinate with those fellas up there. It was a great ride from 2019 on to be a part of that team, to launch and co-found the Splitting Hairs podcast with Matt. He's going to do an excellent job, like he continues to do, with the blog on the website, jackrabbitillustrated.com. Go check that out. He's churning out some unbelievable content as usual, really quality, in-depth stuff with recruiting, MVFC previews, offensive and defensive previews. But we're going to bring you a lot of the same. So I've started a Substack. You'll see that. That's Splitting Hairs at Substack, splittinghairsmedia.substack.com. We're going to be launching that here before the season, providing a couple blogs each week to give you all the coverage that you crave. Going to do some different things to not duplicate what some of the other entities are doing out there, but really provide an athlete's perspective. We've also got the rabbit hole of Twitter, or now I guess it's called X, of Twitter lore. So the rabbit hole is contributing to some of our blog posts as well. So that's going to be really exciting to catch his insights as the season rolls on, and catch a little bit of a different perspective than Stacker and I have to provide. So in this podcast, we're going to dive a little bit into the Missouri Valley Football Conference slate, the powers that be within that conference, as well as our SDSU schedule moving forward here into 2023 as we embark on a new wave in the Jimmy Rogers era. So let's dive into it. So the Jackrabbits have a unique schedule this year, obviously opening up, coming off the 2022 national title run with Western Oregon. Western Oregon's a D2 squad out of obviously Oregon. They've got some talent. They've put some guys in the league before. Kevin Boss, most notably of the New York Giants, was an alum there, and he's obviously had a solid career, was a Super Bowl champ. So you should take them pretty seriously, like we want to take all opponents seriously. But if we're being candid about it, there's really no reason not to handedly win this one. I think one of the biggest things that we're going to need to consider is making sure that we play crisp and sharp ball, and not overlook Western Oregon, as we have a lofty opponent coming in to Brookings in the Dana J the following week in Montana State. So I think that one of the key things to note, and we'll get into this more specifically, is getting in and out of that game healthy. We had a great camp. We're healthy so far. And that's what we're going to want to do as we battle the wolves of Western Oregon. So Western Oregon University Wolves were picked 6th in their Division II conference. There's a lot of squads that they've got. They play Minnesota State Mankato, so that'll be an interesting matchup down the road for them in October. They also have got Midwestern State, a lot of teams out here in Texas, Angelo State, Texas A&M Kingsville. Coach Wilkinson, Darren Wilkinson, who used to be an offensive coordinator when I was playing ball, their head coach. Now he's since left to go back to CSU Pueblo. So that's an interesting little tidbit for folks who are followers of historical Jacks coaches that have made the trek around the NCAA. So that'll be really interesting. But we'll get into that more on game week. And as we embark on this Missouri Valley Football Conference rundown here, I think the thing to note is the Jacks are now in the upper echelon of the conference. They have been for some time, but now we kind of got that monkey off the back, or as you might want to put it, homeless cow off the back in North Dakota State University, really running roughshod over the conference and the NCAA for quite some time. They've really struggled with the Jackrabbits historically in conference play, but really were able to, have the upper hand in the playoff meetups that we've had over the years. So I think the Missouri Valley, if we're keeping an eye on that, the preseason polling, and if you follow me on Twitter or X, you now know that polls, to me, there's only a couple polls that I even recognize, and that's like the poll from Christmas Story that the kid gets his tongue stuck on. That's the only poll that bears legitimacy in my eyes until the final season poll, in which the Jacks are number one. But to humor the folks that like to put out these preseason polls, you got South Dakota State atop the rankings, and then you have North Dakota State, followed by UNI, who's always a feisty opponent to keep your eye on, followed by North Dakota, Southern Illinois, Youngstown State, which is a team that's going to turn some heads this year, I believe, Illinois State, Missouri State, South Dakota, Indiana State, Murray State, and Western Illinois rounding out the final teams in their final season. Western Illinois is going to depart for the Ohio Valley, which is probably best for them from a competitive standpoint and from an athletics budget standpoint in terms of things that they're going to want to do moving forward. I think first and foremost, if you want to talk to Bison, there's a lot of unrest, shall we say, in the Fargo Moorhead area because they've just not been able to really find their stride on offense in meaningful games the past few years. If they've had a great first half like they did against us in 2022, they've not been able to put together a complete game. More of the same. They got Cam Miller, who's a reliable quarterback, but has just kind of struggled to get off the schneid when it comes to consistent playmaking when the game is on the line. I think he has that capability. He's just shown a lack of consistency in doing that and putting it together. Throughout the course of his career, he does have one national title. Obviously, that's important. But they've got a stable of backs to lean on. Kobe Johnson is gone. They will have Marshall and I believe TK Williams as well, if my memory serves. And then you'll also have, obviously, rolling in there Cole Payton, who is supposed to be the heir apparent to the Easton Sticks and the Carson Wentz of the world. But, he's shown some ups and downs as well. Last year, Colby Herter's pick was crucial in turning the tide in that game and the ebbs and flows of that game. I know Cam Miller probably doesn't like getting yanked to spread to share some time with Cole, but that's what a lot of the guys are going to do. They do have some talented running backs coming in from the Fargo area. They've got Marcus Shepard at D back, obviously. Shepard, that's the brother of famous Darius Shepard, who is making waves on NFL teams and NFL rosters at the professional level. And then, of course, they're going to be outfitted with some solid fullbacks that we're going to have to keep an eye on. They're going to want to run the ball down everyone's throat this year. They're going to play good ball control offense with Tamarick and the bevy of backs that they're going to roll out there. They did graduate Hunter Lipke, who's done a pretty solid job in the preseason thus far for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's, bowling ball we're not going to have to worry about, which is nice as far as game planning goes. But again, they're going to have some fullbacks in there out of the Wisconsin area. They got Josiah Azur, an underclassman who's probably going to make some waves. But they've got, linebackers that are flowing in. They got really strong secondary historically, but they've graduated some guys that have, were 5 and 6 year players at those positions as well. So it's going to be nice to see some new faces in there, see if they can step up and rise to the challenge. It's nice that we're going to be playing them in Brookings late in the year. So that's something to keep an eye on. They were picked number 2 in the MVFC preseason poll. Then you go to UNI, obviously, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown here. We'll get in depth more with each week with the weekly breakdowns of the teams and their schemes and what they're trying to do top to bottom. But UNI is going to be a stout competitor for us like they typically are. They've got the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. He's lights out. He's a ball player, the Michigan State transfer who's consistently shown an ability to drive the ball down the field. He also, Theo Day, his name escaped me for a second there. Theo Day's got a great ability to drive the ball down the field, really stretch defenses, keep you off task. Hoosman, their running back, transferred to UND last year, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with their backs. They've had a lot of attrition. They get a lot of transfers coming in. They got a lot of transfers going out. If you remember, the kid they had at quarterback transferred to UCA prior to the 2022 season to get a little more PT when Theo came in and really established himself as the guy. And they've got a plethora of weapons. I think they had a tight end. I want to say his name was Allen, that didn't play in our game last year. I believe he had an injury. Yep, and their schedule looks pretty stout. They've got games at Iowa State coming up. They're going to play Weber State. They're going to be pretty beat up, hopefully, by the time we see them for Hobo Day. We schedule a lot of tough opponents on Hobo Day. It seems to be our knack that we like to have a nice challenge for the fans. But regardless, I think that we should rise up to the caliber of opponent, really kind of get going, make sure we can establish our game plans in all of these, and hopefully seal the deal in the end, play good ball control, not turn the ball over too often as we head into these contests. Their defense is always going to be kind of a pain. They brought in a new defensive coordinator this year. I think that's going to be interesting to see, playing more of their kind of brand of ball, very multiple, similar to what we do. They have their staples. They love to cross blitz. They love to do those things that they're accustomed to, that have worked and shown success. They're going to throw a lot of 3-man, odd man fronts. Historically, they have a really solid offensive line. They put guys in the NFL pretty consistently. Spencer Brown, obviously drafted by the Buffalo Bills. He's good. Benny Sapp was a DB. I believe he graduated as well. I think he's getting some run at the professional level. So there's guys, right? There's guys that they've got. I'm sure they're going to reload. There's going to be a different feel, obviously, playing at home. But, playing at home against UNI has historically been kind of a thorn in our side as well. So hopefully Coach Rogers and the staff will get the guys prepared and ready for that when the time comes. Their schedule overall, like I said, it looks to be, we all kind of have like a unique, I should say the powers that be, if you will, the North Dakota states, South Dakota states, and the Montana states kind of have like one solid non-conference opponent this year, sprinkled in with some teams that aren't really in the same category of talent, of depth. So that'll be interesting to watch as it unfolds. for all the teams, hopefully getting healthy into conference play, because that's the name of the game. You want to have all your guys ready to rock. Then moving down the list, North Dakota, Tommy Schuster and the guys, right? They're kind of a backyard football team, as we've discussed previously on some of the pods with Matt and Thomas. They like to sling it around, get the ball on the perimeter. We've gotten one of their wide receiver transfers. I think Bo Belquist is still there, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to have, they'll rotate the kid from Canada in to do short yardage stuff they like to do on goal line. So, they're going to be in a formidable opponent. Playing outside of Grand Forks, though, is kind of tough for them, right? I mean, they did play us pretty solid. Yep, Bo Belquist is back on the roster. They played us pretty solid in 2021. Game kind of came down to the wire. Jacks looked a little bit sloppy. Looked like the season started to wear on them, and they hung around late. Last year, they just gave up a ridiculous amount of offensive production, yards. It's kind of a sloppy game early for the Jacks. Then we really turned it on after Dyshawn's pick. This year it's going to be different. Atmosphere, obviously, playing in Brookings, so that'll be something to look forward to. That's going to be our first conference game. So are we still working out kinks? I believe it's September 30th, but we still working out kinks? Is that something that is going to be a game where we really take and assert our will, our depth, assume full control? It'll be fascinating to see as we march on throughout the year from there. UND could always be one of those teams that's in the mix for playoff contention. It really just kind of depends. I would say as Tommy Schuster goes, so goes that team. He has a knack for making big plays as he extends the plays, as he moves the pocket and gets outside. Really finds his guys downfield. Husman, like I said, transferring from UNI to North Dakota, was supposed to provide that power back feel for them. I didn't really see it appear on film or in games too often. They lost some games I think they would have liked to have picked up, but that's what this upcoming season is. It's a reset and an opportunity for them to showcase what they've got in their development. They're very multiple on defense, but as we talked before, the way they assemble their squads, a lot of rangy type players, kind of longer in length, lighter in the jock strap. They got the ability to penetrate. They're going to do some exotic stuff, stunts and blitzes. Stunting primarily exists on the defensive line. Blitzing, obviously, is a combination of your D-line and your backers at the second level. Obviously, you can bring secondary players as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do and how the Jacks adjust. It'll be interesting to see Coach Luan in his second year, what he does at home with a full season under his belt. Does he sophomore slump, or does he rise and take that next step? I'm fully confident he's going to do the latter. So then when you look at the next subsequent team after UND, so picked fourth, you're going to see Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois has lost a lot. They've lost a lot of their coaching staff to Northwestern. Their defensive coordinator just got poached, actually, as they were heading into camp to Northwestern to join that staff. And Northwestern, as you know, Coach Christian Smith, he left. He's the D-line coach up there. We wish him all the best. Brought in Coach Bibbs, who's going to be handling the chain gang. I really like the interviews that I'm seeing from him on Go Jacks as far as how he approaches it, gets the guys working. He seems loose. He's very well spoken. I'm excited to see what he does with a lot of the returners that we've got there, a lot of the depth that we've got there, and how he develops a lot of the younger talent. Southern Illinois, though, back on track. They're going to have Nick Baker. Nick Baker's always kind of a wild card. He led that massive comeback in Brookings in 2021 that kind of derailed the Jack season for a minute there. But I believe they graduated Avante Cox, Javon Williams, who was the big kind of wildcat quarterback / running back, hybrid back that they used. He is gone as well. So they're going to have to find new guys to get the ball. I'm sure coach is going to be able to do that because that's kind of his knack. Then the team that I'm really looking forward to kind of keeping an eye on is Youngstown State, the Penguins. So their head coach came over from Cincinnati, was a special teams guy over there on that very productive Cincinnati squad that was able to crack the CFP college football playoff some years back. So he was a part of a squad that could really recruit. Came over to Youngstown State. I want to say his first year was the spring COVID year. Kind of gave us a scare there. Had his team playing really solid. They do graduate Jaleel McLaughlin, who was very scat type back, who was really solid in terms of his production overall. But they're going to have to find a new weapon for his team to be in contention in terms of trying to assert their will on defenses. They do return a lot of their defense, but a lot of their defense has shown kind of kinks in the armor. They're going to be a team that, if you even think back to when Jabori was under center, like they'll give up the big play. They'll give it the big play through the air. They kind of don't stay home. They over pursue. There's certain things that they're going to have to shore up, especially when they play teams with a lot of firepower like the Jacks, specifically the Yankees. Are they going to have an answer for them? Some of our new receivers, Graham Goring has shown some emergence there. Obviously, we have Devin Cole. Devin Cole's kind of a more gadget type scat type body who can get the ball to on the perimeter. So are those going to be questions, and are they going to be able to handle everybody else up until the time that they play the Jacks? We'll find out. Illinois State's kind of always been a thorn in our side, right? We got them in normal this year. Haven't played them a lot. Historically, I think they just kind of popped back on the schedule recently last year because they had the spring cancellation that they bowed out on. Coach Spack obviously knows how to coach some defense. It's worth noting that if we put a bookmark in here, it's worth noting that since 2005, there have been 5 different participants from the Missouri Valley Football Conference who played in a national championship at the FCS level. It's been Northern Iowa in 2005. I want to say they played Appalachian State and lost a relatively close one there. We've got North Dakota State, obviously, in 2010. Illinois State in 2014 against North Dakota State. Lost a nail biter there. Then you have Youngstown State in 2016 making a wild run, beating Eastern Washington on the red turf in a wild back pin catch late, which if you look up the highlights on that, the guy pinned the ball to the defender's back for Eastern Washington. Youngstown State went on to win the game in a snowy one there up in Cheney, Washington. So Youngstown State made that in 16. And then the Jacks in 20 and in 2022. So 5 teams from the Missouri Valley Football Conference since 2005 have played for a national title. And only 2 have come away with a national title, that being South Dakota State and North Dakota State. It's worth noting that the number 5 team picked in the preseason poll, the Salukis, have been on the cusp of that several times, dating back to 2007 when they dropped one to Joe Flacco and the Delaware Blue Hens. So historically, these are programs that can play some ball. So when you look at Illinois State, they're kind of abysmal. They had like a revolving door at quarterback due to injuries. They had Annexstad. I want to say Zach Annexstad is his name. I know his last name is Annexstad, but I believe he was a transfer from Minnesota. He had some injury issues. That was kind of an intriguing get for the Redbirds. I was a little bit concerned with his talent coming in and just kind of how we play Illinois State pretty close historically. They did graduate Vandenberg, which is excellent because he was a heck of a player. But I know Coach Spack and them, they're going to get a lot of transfers historically as they assemble their roster. They certainly have. And that'll be interesting to watch as the season pans out. Is that going to be a team that's 7-5, and flirting on the edge of the playoffs? Or is that going to be a team that comes back to form from the early teens and asserts themselves as a perennial contender for a national title. We'll see. It's nice to play them in Normal, though. That'll be interesting. Seem to my recollection, they get some home cooking down there. But then you have Missouri State. That is a wild program down there, from flirting with FBS opportunities to exploring that whole process to now losing their head coach and Bobby Petrino, who I think is at A&M. I think he took the offensive coordinator position there. So that'll be interesting to see what Petrino does for old Jimbo down in College Station. But, they've got a young coach who's taking the reins there. Missouri State out in Springfield, in Plasterfield. They've got it's a great opportunity to recruit down there. I don't know, they seem to have talent, but they kind of get in their own way, or they did under the Petrino umbrella, so to speak, when they had a lot of talent, played Arkansas really close. Shelley was the quarterback there. He's got a lot of talent, but kind of struggled to make the play through the air that they needed him to make when the game was on the line. If memory serves, that was a very, very hyped game, one of the best hyped games in 22 up to that point. Following that Arkansas game, when the Jacks headed down to Plaster, really took care of business. I know Zach Hines had a field day against them, running down the seam. I want to say he had 7 catches for $127 and a touchdown. Really turned the tide. Jaden Yankee was a problem for them in that game. Really blew the doors off late. And Mark had a field day. He really had a rhythm going there in that one that helped the Jacks really get on the horse and get the ship righted as they pursued the Valley competition throughout the rest of the year. So that will be interesting to see how Missouri State, or the affectionately named Misery State, produces this year. You look at South Dakota. South Dakota is an intriguing matchup, right? Because the Bowman kid, he kind of assumed the reins. Carson Camp is no longer there. That was supposed to be their guy, their heir apparent for Nielsen to try to get the team to the playoffs, which I believe he might have done one year, but just so inconsistent down there in Vermilion, which doesn't bother the Jacks faithful one bit. I think they've got, I'll have to fact check this, but Travis Teese, I think he returns, and they've got some talent. That's a team that is going to look good when they come off the bus. They're going to look like a fully outfit D1 team. They're going to have some decent talent on the perimeter, both from a defensive back standpoint, from a linebacker standpoint, certainly from offensive lineman standpoint. They've put guys in the league, but are they going to be able to play as a unit, play as a team, establish some offensive drives? One might think, right? Coach Davis departed the Jacks from the national championship team, was a passing game coordinator, wide receiver coach, collaborating with Lujan there. So he's going to know us inside and out. That's kind of a strange thing. Can never fault the guy for taking the money, but that's kind of an odd one. Wish him the best of luck outside of playing the Jacks. But other than that, Bauman will be an interesting one to follow, because teams go the way of their quarterbacks. And, not a lot of teams get the type of running back talent that we've got. Not a lot of teams certainly get the depth that we've got this year. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. You got some of the bottom feeders here now. It's no shade to them, but they just have not been able to produce. And that's just the nature of football here. You got Indiana State and the Sycamores out there. I like their coaching staff. They got some guys from the Bison, the Homeless Cows, on their squad, coaching backers and defense. Kurt Mallory, he's a descendant of the old Indiana coach there, so he knows football. He's been around the game a long time. Just can't seem to get the ship righted there in Indiana, down in old Terre Haute. It'll be interesting to see if they can remain competitive throughout the year after they take some lumps, because some of those teams that just lack the talent, potentially leadership, potentially, big playability, they just it seems the wheels fall off and they can't correct their miscues. So how they adjust to that adversity throughout their schedule, hopefully, I'd love to see it if all these teams crush their non-conference schedule like they did historically, when I think almost every single squad was undefeated in non-conference play heading into Valley play, which was pretty unique at the time. Murray State, welcome to the party. It'll be interesting to see what they do. It's a team out of Kentucky. Historically, has kind of been a middle of the pack type team. If you pull up their Wikipedia and do some research on their history, the Racers have not really been able to produce. I think they've maybe had a couple 9-win seasons at best, dropping some games in the playoffs if they've been able to join the party at the FCS playoffs level. That'll be an interesting one. Don't really foresee them being too much of a challenge because they're going to have to adapt to the style of play and the meat grinder that is the Valley. So I'll have to check to see if they're even on the schedule or if they're in the rotation this year for the Jacks. Then you got Western Illinois. I think this might be the last trip that we have if they're even on the schedule for the Jacks. I would not want to travel to Macomb anymore, so that's got to be good for the boys in blue to not have to deal with that as we move forward here into the 2023 football schedule here for the Jacks. It's a good time to transition. So as we transition, obviously we talked about Western Oregon. We got Montana State coming up in the Beef Bowl. And this is the marquee matchup. It's the sellout. It's the blackout. So make sure you got your apparel ready. Make sure you bring everybody you can to the tailgate. Have a good time if you don't have your tickets for the game because there aren't going to be any more. And I'm really excited. This is the first non-conference sellout in Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium history. So that's going to be something that is very invigorating, very cool to see for Coach Rogers' first home game. It's going to be the first home game for him at the helm of the Jacks. I'm sure Coach Vegan, the squad out there from Montana, they're going to be a little bit salty. The field is going to be completely pristine, so there's going to be no excuses. They're going to want to establish their style of play. I don't think their style of play is going to be the 50-50 ball from Tommy Malott this year. I think they're going to try to establish a run. They're going to throw a lot of things at us. They're going to use the tight ends. They're going to throw different personnel packages at us, see how we adjust. They're really going to stress Coach Rogers' decision-making, game management, all those types of things to try to get us off kilter because the Dana's going to be rocking. But that's not something that they're unaccustomed to. When they do the Gold Rush, I think Montana State has even possibly sold out all their home games, which is pretty wild for the FCS level. That is their pro team. That's their team out there in Montana. So something to keep an eye on. That's going to be a marquee matchup. Shoot, if Missouri Valley Football Commissioner had some marketing savvy, it'd be cool to see that game broadcast on one of the live networks, ESPN2 or U. But, early in the season, they probably got an SEC matchup. Who knows? Then we have Drake or the Fighting Ray Gronowskis. That'll be an interesting matchup for a number of reasons, namely because it takes place at Target Field. I'm not a Jackrabbit historian, although I try to stay abreast of all things Jackrabbit football. I'm not sure we've ever played a game on a baseball diamond, let alone a professional baseball field. I'll be up there for that game in Minneapolis at Target Field. That's going to be really exciting. I know JFPA's got a great tailgate for that one. That's going to be really exciting. Again, Drake's a non-conference team, non-scholarship. They are non-conference, but non-scholarship Division I. So in terms of talent differential, it's going to be great. There's a huge valley there, but not a team we should take lightly. We've played them before. We've played them pretty handedly, but not a team we should take lightly. And obviously, we're going to be coming off of a highly competitive Montana State game. Foregoing a home game to travel to Minnesota, Minneapolis specifically, even though it's just a hop, skip, and a jump, 4-hour bus ride, not the most fun. I would imagine they bus for that, not fork up money to fly. So that'll be unique, right? It'll be unique for a number of reasons. Different atmosphere, bigger stadium than we're accustomed to, or the dimensions of it. Still football at the end of the day. And like I said, Drake, historically, I want to say 2017 or 2018, I think they picked up the game that Iowa State canceled with the Jackrabbits early in the year, and they picked Drake up in a late season open slot they had and almost lost to Drake. So I know Drake's hoping to kind of capture that magic against the Jacks. We're hoping for a different outcome. So that'll be awesome to see. For those of you who don't know, Ray Gronowski was a quarterback back in the 80s for them. Was looking up some information on him today. Played against Tulsa back in the day, and so he's got some feathers in the cap as well from his athletic days. I know that'll be fun to talk shop with him. He will be making an appearance on the podcast tomorrow, previewing that, and that'll be released for the Drake week for that September 16th game. So look forward to that. Then we have North Dakota. We've talked about that. We've got them at home. Outside of Grand Forks, they're a completely different team, but look for them to throw a lot of smoke and mirrors at us from a special team standpoint. Really try to pull out all the stops, because when you're playing a athletically overmatched squad and you're the Fighting Hawks, or the effing Hawks as we affectionately call them, you got to do different things to create that competitive advantage. Look for that to happen. That's the Ag Bowl in the Hall of Fame game presented by Pheasant State. So that'll be fun. Then we go to Normal. We've kind of touched on that. Coach Spack's got a great defensive game plan for us. Usually they kind of stumble late, but anytime we got to Normal, 2016, they disrupted our outright Valley title bid, so we had to share it with the Cows. That prevented us from getting the seed that we needed so that we didn't have to travel to Fargo, and we did. The rest is history. Northern Iowa, Hobo Day. Hobo Day again. I like scheduling tough teams on Hobo Day. I don't like the cupcakes because it just makes for a more competitive game. I'd like us to schedule tough teams all the way around. I know the coaching staff probably doesn't feel the same in some respects, but I love competitive battles. I like when more is on the line. I like when the stakes are high. And if you're a competitor and you're in blue and yellow, you should want the same. You should want to just bury Theo Day last year. Caleb Sanders kind of single-handedly took over late, really was a disruptor. Look for one of our blogs coming out, be 21 questions for the upcoming season for the Jackrabbits in 2023. And one of those highlights is, can the Jacks replace the productivity of Caleb Sanders across the defensive line? Not only Caleb Sanders, but also Reese Winkleman. We got a lot of talent, a lot of experience, a lot of depth coming back, but we'd be remiss if we didn't highlight the quality of production and play of Caleb Sanders. And we should shout him out. He just got an opportunity with Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Goedert. So that'll be exciting to see if he can crack the 53-man when final cuts come. Then on October 21st, we're at Southern Illinois. We go back to Carbondale for the first time since the abbreviated spring season when we put a beat down on them. And friend of the pod, Stone Labanowitz, that was kind of one of those games that was pretty fun. There was a lot of chirping before when Nick Baker was able to take out the Bison. And then I believe due to an injury, he was out. And then Stone came in. We drubbed him 44-3. And part of my favorite highlight from that was when Logan Backus reeled him in, was doing a little fishing of his own after we put the beat down on them. Then we saw them later in the year. We've seen them quite a bit in recent memory. Saw them later in the year in the playoffs. That was a wild one. Barn burner came down to the very end. We were able to eke that one out. A little bit of controversy there. I don't think there's controversy. Wink, wink. But, the cookie crumbled affectionately for the Jacks. Then we're at South Dakota. That's going to be for their fan base anyway, that's their all world, all everything, all chips in the center of the table game. That's their Super Bowl. So they're going to be really excited about that one. It'll be interesting. That's a hostile crowd, hostile environment. Jacks historically have played them, played to their level multiple times when they've been in Vermillion in recent memory. I know we had a lot of turnover issues there. So hopefully we can get that righted and close the game out late with that chaos that happened that put us on ESPN. We want to be on the other side of that one. And then late in the season, very late in the season, November 4th, we take on the Bison for the marker game at Dana J. Dykehouse Stadium. That one will be really exciting. That's a 2 p.m. game. As the games get later in the season, obviously the Jacks start to play those later afternoon games, probably due to the weather not being so cold and frigid, but that's an exciting one. Hopefully that's rocking as well. And you never know. If we're undefeated, if they're undefeated, if we take care of business, if they do the same, could be a showcase for potentially coming to your city type thing with old Patty Mack in the crew. I don't know. Just saying. That could be exciting. But a lot to take care of before that happens. Then we're at Youngstown State, November 11th. That's going to be a tough one. Changing the time zone. It's an 11 a.m. kick. That's tough. So that's a 10 a.m. kick for our guys. Like I said, returning almost everybody on defense. They do lose their weapon on offense in Jaleel McLaughlin. That coach is going to get him right, though. He seems to be the right fit for the job. I thought they were a playoff team last year, but the voters had other options. Didn't really matter in the end because the 1 seed won it all. And we know who that was, the Jackrabbits. The Youngstown State, that's going to be an intriguing matchup. Then we finish it out, Military Appreciation Day at home against Missouri State. So hopefully we can be healthy, we can take care of business, do what we can, and really close the doors on Missouri State, who we really should have an advantage over with all the coaching staff turnover, with all the graduation of talent, stuff like that. Hopefully we can right the ship. I know they're going to be salty and wanting to get a W under their belt. We're going to get everybody's best game. Coming off of a national title run, everybody wants to take down the king at the top of the hill. And it's going to be exciting to see how the Jacks handle that stress, that excitement. It's going to be really intriguing to see who steps up early on. Hopefully we can get guys reps because the game is in hand, and hopefully we can find our rhythm sooner than later. Nobody wants to peak at the beginning of the year. You want to peak leading into the playoffs. But great teams take care of business, and teams that have established themselves as kind of that top tier, upper echelon. Those are the ones that don't slip up when they're not supposed to. They don't play down to level their opponent. I'm pretty sure Coach Rogers is going to have the guys dialed in, ready to rock for each game, each week. But these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. Shoot, some of them are probably close to 30 with this COVID rule and the red shirting. But all the same, I think they're going to be ready to go. That Northern Iowa game, a lot of guys have predicted internally with the Jackrabbit Illustrated crew that we're going to lose that one. I'm pretty neutral on any of this until I see the teams play. So I wouldn't go as far as to say we're going to lose any. That's not to say we're going to win all of them. Running an undefeated slate is pretty difficult to do, no matter what level you play, whether it's prep ball, peewee ball, all the way up to the NFL levels, as you can see with the 2007 Patriots who stumbled up in the Super Bowl. So it's no easy task. If any team can do it, certainly it could be the Jacks. I'm excited to see what Coach Rogers does from a game management perspective, the feel and the vibe of the team coming in. We got new coordinators, Coach Bobbitt on the defensive side of the ball. I'm excited to see how he commands the defense, how he collaborates with Coach Rogers. Coach Rogers is now the CEO of the team, so he's taking on more of an executive type role where he's going to be tasked to do many different things than he typically did on game day Saturdays. So that'll be a fascinating thing to keep an eye on as the season progresses. And obviously I mentioned it and touched on it before when we were going through kind of who the Jacks would face and how they would produce on offense. But you look at Coach Lujan, he was just named to 24/7 Sports 30 coaches under 30, which is a great accolade for a young kid to be given some notoriety for his productivity from the booth. He's really turned it up come the playoffs, which is exactly like I touched on earlier. You want to peak at the right time. We started getting guys back healthy. Tucker Kraft, a weapon there. Obviously using the 2 tight ends that are great there, the Swiss Army knife, Mike Morgan, and then just riding the bevy of backs that we've got. Amar Johnson definitely, stepped up, matured, did a lot of really good things, starting with the marker game when he really turned up the juice, when Isaiah got a little bit dinged up there. And obviously, the freight train, Choo Choo, the guy that I like to watch really run behind his pads, Isaiah Davis. He's just a game changer. And trying to tackle him 15, 20 times a game is just a nightmare, really. Just a big back. He's going to wear on you. And then you got the 605 Hogs. Obviously, they're reloading. Got Garrett Greenfield, Mason McCormick coming back. More than likely to improve their draft status. Do they take another step? Do they improve their leadership ability? Are they able to repeat? That's why they're coming back. They want to refine their skill set. They're going to do a good job, obviously, leading the team. They're no strangers to it. They played a lot of ball. And so now it's time to really take that next step to get on these NFL coaches' scouting reports and rosters come the following summer. So that'll be something interesting to see. Will they improve their draft stock? Same thing with the Yankees on the edge. Are they going to take that next step? Get some good all-star game invites? Are they going to produce? Are they going to be good leaders? Are they going to remain focused? It's a long season, guys. It's a long season, and it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Then you got the ultimate field general returning as well, and Mark Gronowski. More than anything, I'm excited that he was able to stay healthy last year. We got guys that are going to keep him upright. Really impressed with Gus Miller's development over the course of the years, and specifically last year under center because he bumped over from guard. He had the yips a little bit early, with snaps. So obviously having a full season under his belt in that shotgun formation and under center when we needed to, he's going to be able to kind of really settle in now and hopefully not have any of those miscues. And seeing him get up to second level, really creating alleys last year was a sight to see. So that was exciting. Brookings kid, you always like to see that. Then you got obviously Berenstain at guard, battled with some injuries early last year, then really kind of solidified himself in that guard role opposite McCormick. The juggernaut, who's always going to, pancake guys and set the tone. And I really love his leadership ability. But Berenstain was solid, really a bulwark there in at the opposite guard position. So it'll be good to see him hopefully stay healthy, take some next steps. And then obviously O'Brien. O'Brien did a great job anchoring the other tackle position opposite Greenfield. Really came into his own after struggling in the unfriendly confines of the Fargo shopping mall. And it was really cool to see him make a name for himself at the tackle position. Coming over from Bowling Green, he was a transfer, so it's exciting to see guys really embrace South Dakota State and produce while they do embrace South Dakota State. And I think O'Brien has a bright future if he continue to progress. His false starts kind of really put us behind the 8 ball in some of those games there, but he's able to settle in and did a really good job against some really strong talent, namely Spencer Wagee over there for North Dakota State. And then, you look at our defensive side of the ball. We talked about it. It's incredible what we're doing on the D line, from Van Marl to Balloon to DePriest to we got so many guys. It's tough to name them all. On the edge, we got Cade Tervier returning. We've got Hicks returning. We've got Caden Johnson returning, who's really made a name for himself. He's really fun to watch for me because his motor never stops. And a lot of times as a D lineman, you have your first move, you have your alternative pass rush move, but what's going to get you sacks more than anything is your motor. And Caden Johnson doesn't stop. A lot of times that's kind of a jab to certain players' athletic ability when you say they're a high motor guy, but I don't think he'd have it any other way. I think he just sees ball, gets ball. That's his MO, and you'll love to see it. Helping him out on the edge there, and then we got Blake Peterson, coming over from Iowa State, making a name for himself as a second-generation Jack. trying to get a little revitalization in his career in blue and yellow. He's going to be rocking number 8. Love seeing guys with the boldness to rock a single digit. So he better produce out there on the edge. Then we have our bevy of backers. Man, do we just reload at backer? It's crazy to see from, all the talent that we've had out on the perimeter. I'm sorry, I should say second level through the years. Similar to running back, you're like, how are we ever going to replace Roseboom? How are we going to replace, all the Tetzlaff? How are we going to replace Derek Domino, Chris Johnson, TJ Lally, Ross Shafrath, all these backers we've had that have just really come out there and produced. Jesse Bobbitt is one to name another. And so when you look at it, I was really pleasantly surprised last year when we did so with quite a few injuries. When Bach went down, obviously Adam Bach, all world, all American recognition, another guy who wouldn't have it any other way. His high motor, tenacity, and effort just really separates him from anybody else. I don't think that kid, I haven't seen anybody run like that in ages, sideline to sideline. And Coach Spack really hit on that as well. And then you got Stallbird who does the same. Really kind of that hybrid body type, could be a safety, could be a linebacker, but really does a great job. He's gotten some East-West Shrine Game, All-Star Game, preseason recognition. He's on their watch list, along with several other players for the Jacks, but specifically on the defensive side of the ball. I love seeing what Savion Williamson did, stepping up, really being a key player, wreaking havoc across, the playoff run that we had last year. More of the same. He's back. We're going to see, we got Johnson, a younger linebacker, stepping up, coming up through the ranks. I was pleasantly surprised what I saw from Kyton Fife, rocking number 47. So, I'm a little bit biased there, but it was cool to see his development. I think he's out of Nebraska. So that's another Nebraska Jack to keep an eye on. We do have talent. We have talent there. The Kusler brothers that are just really, really solid on special teams. I'm sure they're going to crack the lineup at LB a little bit here too. I'd be shocked if they didn't get some run in some of the non-conference schedule as well. That's the move, right? All the teams that end up winning national titles, they take care of business when they're supposed to take care of business, and they develop that younger talent, right? Because they get their starters out, they stay fresh. The key is not to miss a beat the following week, where they're not out of rhythm. They're still playing football. It's the same game, same thing they got to do. And at the secondary level, Norblade has departed. He's on the podcast with Matt in the JI crew. So it's interesting to see him transition. It's always a little bit of a sting at first, but I think he's going to school still and working on completing a degree, 1 or 2. I'm not sure how many, but it's always good to see other guys step up. He got a title, so he was able to ride off into the sunset. Norblade did some big things for the Jacks. You got Colby Herter, like we mentioned. And then obviously Matt Durant's, he's gotten some play, number 23. And then obviously the big hitter, the other Nebraska, or no, he's actually from Illinois, Cale Reed is a fun guy to watch back there, number 25. I'm always worried that we're going to get a flag. Then I see the replay, and it was a great form tackle, depending on the games. And, you got some other younger talent back there as well, helping him out, helping he and Colby out there. It'll be fun to see. I missed a few guys actually, because we're so deep at linebacker, and I'm just kind of giving you a quick run through. We definitely want to get it in the first preview. Obviously, you got Graham Spalding. Graham Spalding returns, the law firm. He locks it down. He's another guy who sets the tone, just continues to try to improve his game each year. He's going to be a guy to reckon with because he is just a football player. I think in UNI game last time they came to Brookings, he had a crucial turnover that he was able to force, and he was just flying all over the field. He's done so throughout his career. He's another guy aside from Reeder who really lays the wood and plays bigger than his frame is. So it's always cool to see those kind of undersized bodies really show up with authority when they make plays. and they make their presence known. And he did so against North Dakota last year, and I thought he killed the guy. I thought an ambulance should have come out, but that was really cool to see the guy be healthy and you get a kill shot like that. What could be better? So Graham, that's another guy to watch in blue and yellow in the linebacking core. Obviously, the unsung hero last year in the playoffs a lot of times was Jason Freeman. He's a ball player, man. And you take on the personality of your head coach. He happened to be a linebacker. So how would you not take on that type of, mentality where you're constantly in pursuit of the ball, you're grabbing cloth, ripping flesh, doing what you can to get the ball into your guys' hands on the offense. So that's going to be another dude to keep your eye on. It's almost strange because like you name a few of these guys and that would be it. That would be the depth of the roster at your linebacking core. But not only have we been able to reload at marquee positions like running back and quarterback, wide receiver and stuff like that, we're reloading at every level, at safety, at DB, at LB, at D line, at tight end. We put tight ends in the league. We put running backs in the league. It's really becoming a pro factory and hopefully a national championship factory because the statement is the standard. So they say. Caleb Frankel's another guy to keep an eye on. I'm really excited to see how he bounces back after injury in the Iowa game last year. He really set the tone. He was a starter. So it'll be really, really intriguing to see if he's able to step in, return to form, and really elevate his play coming off a leg injury because scopes and stuff like that, far different than they used to be back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s even. So hopefully he's healthy. He's able to hit his stride literally and figuratively. Rocking number 9, Caleb Frankel will be back in the lineup. And then as you just transition quickly to cornerback, obviously got Dyshawn Gales anchoring that position over there on the left side. It'll be interesting to see, Steven Arell, he'll get play. He switched his number from 26 to 4. So keep an eye out for that. If you see 4 running around there, it's not Adam Vinatieri. It's certainly Steven Arell. Although Adam will probably be able to play a little bit of DB. If you've ever seen that clip of him chasing down Herschel Walker, I think he's just a competitor. Of course, you got Dallas Beenham. I think he's going to anchor the other spot. Matt Zimmer of Sioux Falls Live, his depth chart came out, and it looked like Dallas was anchoring that other spot. Number 7 out there on the perimeter. I believe he's a Nebraska guy. Yeah, he's an Omaha Millard West guy. Probably Dan Jackson's recruits. He did a good job, but I know we're going to be, I think one of the Minaj boys is coaching them up, if I'm not mistaken. You got Dayton McGoy as well. He's a linebacker now. I thought he was a safety coming in years past, but he's going to be great. Tucker Large. I mean, the list goes on. It's actually absurd when you look at this depth that we've got top to bottom. So now it's like all on us as Jackrabbits faithful if we don't get it done. I have no reason to think we won't. But that's your quick, brief overview. One-man show tonight. Sheehan and Stacker will be coming to you live a couple times a week. We're going to try to start live streaming. So this is going to be on. Sorry about that. This is going to be. Sorry about that. Dogs got a little excited. We'll be resuming our weekly podcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Look for Stacker and I to talk shop as well as preview the upcoming opponent. Thursdays, hope to get you our former player features that we're going to continue and really give you some interesting guests. Like I said, we'll be doing a Substack blog, Splitting Hairs Media at .substack.com. You can check it out. You can follow us. You can subscribe. If you like this new podcast iteration that we're bringing to you of the Splitting Hairs, don't be shy to rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. We'd be grateful for that. It helps us appear more in the algorithm so you can start to get more content and folks can start seeing that we've made the transition to our own entity over here to give you the media and the coverage by athletes for athletes from that perspective. So we are excited about this endeavor. We're going to do our best to keep giving you good quality content and coverage because we have a great program to be able to showcase. So we want to match that effort and match that intensity and hopefully bring you everything we can in the meantime. So until then, follow us on Facebook at Splitting Hairs Podcast. You can check us out. We're going to live stream on YouTube. We have a grace period where they have to audit us for whatever reason at YouTube. That's what they're doing. So we will be live streaming hopefully here shortly. And then obviously check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We'll get these recordings out to you. Hopefully a quick turnaround time, but I'm kind of a one-man show here. So appreciate your patience. And then again, shout out to our sponsors, Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro out of Brookings, South Dakota, and True North Retirement. We could not do this without you. It's very awesome to have your support. We're grateful for it. And it allows us to kind of pour more into the podcast to make sure people get what they want. So appreciate your time. Next week, check out Thomas Stacker and I. We'll be back. He had some technical difficulties tonight. We're looking forward to talking shop with him. Until then, go big, go blue, go Jacks.